Hey people, this is White Tiger with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling Network duel. And this duel is against my opponent here, Crap Old Toast. Epic name. Um, this duel will be using my one of my favourite decks I'm using at the moment, which is sort of my anti-meta deck. It is my Macrocosmos Necroface Mill deck. And you'll see how that works as we go along. My opponent here is running a Neos deck, which is rather original, so I'll give him props for that. And yeah, so let's get into it here. Now he's playing emergency call here and 1 day of peace, so we both get to draw a card. I'm not going to complain about that. That's just 1 mil for me. So that's one thing I like about this game. A lot of decks at the moment use a lot of draw power, and every little bit of that, it helps a little bit to my core. So even though they think they're getting a lot of advantage, they're still helping me towards my win condition, which is milling them out. So I'm going to play my Gold Sarcophagus here, and this is my ideal opening card. And it lets me banish a Necroface from my deck, only one because it's restricted to one unfortunately. And when that's banished, it banishes the top 5 cards of both players' decks. And this is my main tool for milling in this deck. The idea is to try and get its effect off as many times as possible in the duel. So I've done that once now, and in 2 turns that will return to my hand. And luckily I have a Law of Darkness in my hand as well, so when I get it to my hand I'll be able to draw 2 cards with that and banish it again for another 5 mils. Well, that's the idea in theory. So I'm going to set Macro here, and I'm going to set a Needleworm, which should get rid of another 5 cards if I can get its flip effect off. But he's going to play Heavy Storm. That's going to get rid of my Cosmos. A bit of a pain because I do like to get my Cosmos off early, but that also means that his main Spell and Trap Destruction is gone. So that's very good, so I can set up some stuff later without too much trouble, unless he's running some Mystical Space Typhoons or anything else like that. So he's going to mill 5 there. And yeah, he's running some interesting cards there, like Upstart Goblin and some of the Neos cards there. Interesting choices. Personally, I prefer to run Possible Duality to Upstart Goblin in any sort of offensive deck, but I mean, I'm not very familiar with Neos, so whatever works for him, props to him. If it works, it works. So I'm going to play 1 day of peace, get me 1 day of peace from damage, and we both get to draw 1, so that's another mill. A very useful card in this deck, 1 day of peace. Stool and 1 mil, and I get to replenish my hand, so it's always good. And I set my worm there, as you'll see in a minute how he works towards the win condition of this deck. And he's going to play another upstart, so I'm on 9,000 life points. Let's see, what's he going to do now? He's going to play Hand Destruction. Now, another card I'm not too sure about, but yeah, again, if it works, it works. So, and I've got quite a useful hand right now, so I'm really not sure what to get rid of. I don't want to get rid of Scout Plane because it's best to wait until I can get a banish card like Macrocosmos up, but I haven't got much of a choice. And Morphing Jar I really did not want to get rid of because that can mill another 5 cards and wipe out my opponent's hand. But unfortunately I'm going to have to, because I want to use the Law of Darkness on my Necroface again, and I want to use swords because at this point it's my only form of stool I've got available. So he's going to attack my worm, and its effect is simply when it's destroyed, luckily it doesn't have to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard, top 3 cards of my opponent go to the graveyard. So yeah, there we go, that's another 3, and he's already down to 13 cards in his deck, so I'm in a fairly decent position. I've got swords. I'm going to get Law of Darkness off in a moment to get my Necroface, which will now go to my hand because it's the second standby phase after Sarcophagus's activation. And so let's see if we can do this. We're going to play a Law of Darkness now. I get to draw 2 cards, and this is why, as you may have noticed, I run 50 cards in my deck. I have a little bit of draw power in 1 day of peace and a Law of Darkness, and of course Necroface hits both of us, not just my opponent. And therefore I try to run more than 40 cards because there is always a chance that I could mill myself out. And this is something, along with other things, I'm trying to play with to try and make the deck as consistent as possible. I'm messing around with the number of cards. I'll try 40, 45, 50, 55 and 60 just to see which is the best, because obviously you want less cards to make the deck the most consistent as possible, but more cards just in case I end up milling myself out, because you never know how many cards your opponent's going to run and how the game will play out. So at the moment I'm running 50 and it's running fairly smoothly, but as the deck isn't the most consistent build, it can give you bad hands. So I'm probably going to try and cut down to maybe 45 or 40 if I can get away with it, and try and cut away some of the less useful stuff in here that clogs my hands. If you have any suggestions on how to make this deck more effective, or any opinions on the deck at all, please comment them below. I'd greatly appreciate any feedback. But again, I don't take any credit for this actual deck. I was looking up online for ideas for macro decks, and I found this on, I think it was actually on the Dueling Network forums themselves. And I found this deck list, and I've been messing around with the idea, adding and taking away cards until I've got my own deck list that I think works fairly well. So no credit for the actual concept. So sorry, I don't know who actually created the deck, but you know, it's a deck. Everyone's going to pick, whenever a deck's made, someone's going to pick it up eventually. But yeah, so he's going to bring out this Glowneus here, and I was trying to read the effect. It's got some bizarre effect about attacking directly, and this is where I start making mistakes. Now, at first I forget about Neospace completely. First of all, the 500 attack boost, and second of all, most importantly, I'm reading the card and I realise, oh, it goes back to the extra deck. But then I did not realise Neospace. Oh right, it has that effect where it stops it returning. So I let the attack go through, completely forgetting Neospace's full effect, and that's just cost me 3,000 life points. So I'm not sure what to really do here. I'm going to play Swords. Now, one of his effects, as you might have saw, was when it's on the field, you can destroy one of your opponent's spells. And here, I didn't read the card particularly well, because I'm not familiar with Neos cards at all, as you saw with my mistake with Neospace. But I thought its effect was when it's summoned, but nope, it's a once per turn effect. So he is just going to blow up my swords here, and that's going to be my last form of stall gone. I haven't got Macrocosmos up to help me to banish his cards, and I haven't got the all-important Gravekeeper's Servant, which, if you don't know, Gravekeeper's Servant is a card that when your opponent attacks, they have to mill a card from their deck to the graveyard, and with Macrocosmos or another card, such as Dimensional Fissure, they can't declare an attack because Gravekeeper's Servant requires it to go to the graveyard or you can't attack. That's the way it works, and it's a really, really useful combo to stop your opponent from attacking. But unfortunately, I have not got that up this duel, and I'm going to have to Book of Moon his monster because that's my only form of defense, and I don't want to take another 3,000. But he's going to go into his main phase 2, and he is going to play, if I remember rightly, Dark Hole. Yep, that's right. Sorry, I did narrate this after I recorded it, as I usually do, and I'm not sure why, but I suppose that's a smart move. He doesn't want to risk my nasty flip monsters, so I'm going to chain my Assault of GHQ, I think that's what it's called, and destroy my own monster because I don't want to risk having to summon another monster to get my GHQ, because GHQ, excuse me, you destroy one of your own monsters and it mills 2 cards of your opponent's deck. With Worm as well, that's 5 cards off the top of his deck, and he's down to 3 cards. So I'm really close to winning here, and I get Gravekeeper Servant, which could be game potentially, but he plays Solemn Judgment, and oh god, that's annoying. Now, it may seem silly to play that on such a card like Gravekeeper Servant, but it's a very smart play at this point because he's realised his life points are redundant because I'm not planning to attack him in whatsoever. So it was a good play because Gravekeeper Servant could destroy him. Because he's only got 2 cards left now, and each attack would mill 1 card, even though I don't have macro on the field. And if he has no cards in his deck, even though he could, he wouldn't lose immediately unless it's in his draw phase and he has to draw a card. Gravekeeper Servant would stop his attack because you have to mill to the graveyard or no attack. But unfortunately, as again you probably saw there, sorry I'm a bit behind on the stall. He has Neospace and Grand Mole, which when it attacks, it bounces the monster it attacks immediately and itself to the controller's hand. No flip effects activate. And that is one of the worst enemies to this deck I could possibly have. And I'm in a very bad position here. I'm keep drawing monsters, and he can just keep bouncing it off. But I'm thinking, okay, I can't really do much here myself, but he's down to 0 cards. So if he hasn't got anything big he can summon, I may be able to just snatch this away here. I'm on 6,000 life points, he shouldn't be able to wipe me off in 1 turn. But then he plays this, Miracle Contact. From your graveyard, put back elemental heroes that are listed on a Neo fusion card and special summon it, ignoring the summoning conditions. So not only is this card is like the perfect card for him right now, not only is he going to get out an overpowered Neos card, he is going to add 3 cards back to his deck to stop himself losing it in the following turn. Which is not good for me because I have nothing to help me because he still has that Neo space, Neo Mole, sorry, and I'm going to be praying to draw something useful my next turn. If this deck had been running to its full potential, I would have had a Macrocosmos or a Fisher or even a Banisher of the Light face up on the field, and his monsters wouldn't all have hit the graveyard, and this card may not have been even possible to be used. So that just shows that this deck, although the idea I think is a really good one, and it is very fun to use because it can destroy a lot of meta decks. Like, oh, this deck is such a fun deck to play against decks like Chaos Dragons. I will try and get a good duel against Chaos Dragons or Dark Worlds or something to show how well it can work. It's just like an ultimate troll, really. But yeah, so he's going to summon this big, scary Chaos Neo. And his effect is flip 3 coins, 3 heads he destroys all my monsters, 2 heads he negates my effects, and 1 head he returns his monsters. And he would get all 3 heads. So he kills my monster and attacks me for 3,500. So now I'm in a desperate position. He's got 3 cards in his deck, I've got no way to mill them, and I need something to stop him attacking me. But no, I draw another monster, and as I said, he's still got his mole in his hand. I've got no way to stop it. And that is pretty much the game right there. I was very close in this duel. I did make some silly mistakes with Neo Space and that, but overall I don't think they made much of a difference to the outcome. He did play very well in this duel. The card to summon that monster was very well played. I did not expect that to come along. Again, not knowing about Neo's cards, I had no idea that card existed. And that just screwed me over completely, along with his most hated Neo Spacian Grand Mole. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I thought it was a fun one to upload. We both used some fun gimmicky decks there, and I thought it was a good duel overall, even if I lost. So please post any comments you have on this deck below, whether suggestions or any other comments you have. I do plan to upload more with this deck because I love using it, and it's really fun when like meta decks like, oh, if they have a whole field of Chaos Dragons and they hit my face down Morphing Jar 2, it is the most amazing moment. They're just anyway, I won't go into that now. I will try and upload videos of that later. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. See you later. Bye.